Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Coffee Break, and welcome back to the Coffee Cast. So glad to have you all here with me today. I'm going to be bringing you guys something a little bit different than our general amateur versus amateur or pro versus pro game, because these players are kind of at that in-between stage where I don't really want to call them an amateur anymore. But, you know, they're not, going to be winning any MLGs anytime soon, probably. This is going to be a game from the Collegiate Star League. Don't know if you guys have heard of them, but that is colleges. They just, it's exactly what it sounds like. Colleges get teams together, and then they play each other. Spawning on the lower right-hand side here as our purple Protoss player, we are going to be having Yombonski, hailing from the University of Nebraska at Lincoln, who I have actually gotten a chance to cast before at the Nebraska Esports Association Open Tournament a few months back, and his opponent spawning on the lower left-hand side at about that 7 o'clock-ish position. Those times are so hard on these corners. We are going to be having XBZ hailing from Kansas University. So Battle of the Midwestern Colleges here should be kind of interesting. If I were, to put a rivalry to something, it would be this, because I don't know if anybody, you guys are football fans out there, but Nebraska versus Kansas was always a great game until, of course, Nebraska moved to the Big Ten. Kansas still sitting back in the Big 12. Not a big deal, but it was always kind of a nice matchup. So I'm actually kind of excited that this is going to be one of the games that I'm going to be getting casting from the CSL, just because, why not? It looked like a lot of fun hailing. I hail from Omaha, Nebraska myself, so it's kind of like casting one of my home team versus a really good rival. Nothing like a good rivalry. So things are going to be going pretty much as standard as you would expect. Tal'Darim Altar sometimes can prove to be a little bit problemsome for Zergs, especially versus Protoss, as taking a third base can be somewhat difficult with these rocks blocking that third expansion. Forces the Zerg either to spawn a few extra units in the early game, or to expand kind of far away and take this third base just north of their natural expansion, which can be a little bit difficult to hold, seeing as, well, you have this nice, great distance all the way up to run around here. And so if the Protoss player decides to, go 2-gate before Cyber, do a little bit of zealot pressure, you can lose a queen, lose a couple extra drones, and it's not a game-ending error, but it's one of those little things that's a little bit annoying. It'll put you just a little bit behind, and when you get to these higher levels of play, it really makes all the difference just to have those little tidbits here and there. Looks like XBZ is going to be opening up with Metabolic Boost, just get a little bit of map control early on. Already pulled his drones off that gas, and just look at that. I always think that this is absolutely beautiful when the Zerg player ends on exactly 0 gas. He took exactly 25 trips from that geyser and pulled every single drone off. Just shows how well refined XBZ is. Hopefully Yombonski just as refined, because that's going to be if XBZ keeps up that sort of play, it's going to be really hard to compete against. Yombonski throwing down his 2 geysers at his main base. Natural expansion just about to finish quite a bit before XBZ. In fact, XBZ expanding a little bit late, I feel. So Yombonski actually going to get a slight lead in the economy in that right. Looks like XBZ is going to go ahead and opt for that spawning a few extra units, take down these rocks just so that he can expand to a little bit safer of a location. So I suppose that does explain why our natural expansion was a little bit late over here for our Zerg player, because he did spawn some additional Zerglings, took up some extra resources so that he could go ahead and take the safer expansion. And I would assume almost as soon as these rocks go down that this expansion would be taken. Otherwise, really, I guess those Zerglings would have kind of been spawned in vain, because they're not going to really be able to do all that much else with the Zealot, with a cannon on the field. Cyberdynamics core finishing up here. Shouldn't be too long, probably about another minute or 2 minutes until we really see what Yombonski is going to be going for. Actually sticking only on two gas geysers right now. A little bit interesting. A lot of the time you'll see players take that third geyser fairly quickly after getting this nexus established. Even if they don't put probes in immediately, they just kind of like to have it there, so if they want to do a quick tech switch up to something, it is not too much of a problem. Looks like we might actually be seeing a little bit of a timing attack coming out of Yombonski. Does have his +1 already on the way. So imperative for Protoss to get this +1 in the early game versus Zerg. Does have his robotics facility on the way, and that's that's pretty much as standard as you can get. Let's go ahead and not look too far into just having a robotics facility on the field. Only a single Vespian guys are currently for XBZ. There we go. I was going to say, still hasn't taken his third base. Still trying to kill the rocks at that third base. Drone is in position to take it. And look at that, right on top of that. Drone even getting in on the last final munches on that rock. And going to go ahead and throw down that third base as soon as the rocks fall. I would be really surprised if we don't see a couple of additional geysers going down fairly shortly. There's one. There's the Roach Warren. That's the first real tech that we've seen out of XBZ so far. But, I mean, we've only seen stuff that you really have to do as a Zerg player at this point. So, kind of like his opponent in Yombonski, just kind of doing things fairly standard. Actually, I'm going to take that standard remark back a little bit, because we have a Warp Prism coming onto the field for Yombonski, so it looks like we might be seeing a little bit of harassment. And oh no, this Overlord not quite positioned correctly, just needs to get up onto this ridge. Oh no, nope, he's just going to lose that. And I think this is actually pre-patch as well, before that Overlord speed patch. So that Overlord did not have much of a chance there at all. Warp Gate finishing up at a fairly standard time right as that Warp Prism finishes up as well. So fairly good timing on that from Yombonski. I'm interested to see where exactly he's going to be going with this Warp Prism. Is he going to try to snipe the third base, or is he going to head straight into the main base and try to get a couple of drones there? I think the third, I mean, I really actually don't see this doing all that much damage, all things considered, to be quite honest. Zealots, I mean, even if he dropped them down at this third base, well, I guess actually, what is there to defend right now? Only 8 Zerglings on the field, so actually might be able to do a little bit of damage to that hatchery if he does indeed decide to drop there. It's going to kind of be up to him on that. That Overlord did spot this Warp Prism coming across the map now, so now we are going to see a little bit of response. Hopefully XBZ does have this Zerglings in place, definitely sees it now. There's no way that he missed that. Going to be dropping those Zealots off at the third base. One Spinecrawler does go down. Still no Zerglings on the field, however, 14 getting spawned at the moment, but no Queen down here, and no creep between the second and the third base, so it's going to be very difficult for this to get reinforced down here. The Spinecrawler is forced to be cancelled. We are in warp mode as well, so we can actually see an additional warp into units if you really wanted to take this out. Oh, Zealots are going to get somewhat surrounded by those Zerglings. I don't know if it's quite going to be enough, because they do have that +1 upgrade, which makes such a big difference. Not a single Zealot has gone down so far, and that means the DPS here is going to be quite hard to deal with. One Roach does finally pop out, however, a couple of Stalkers and a couple of additional reinforcing Zealots do pop on the field. These Queens, I don't think they're going to quite be enough, especially with these 2 Zealots up front to tank. This Hatchery is getting so low on HP, and it does indeed go down. That is going to put XBZ quite far behind this game, and picking up into the Warp Prism, going into Warp mode, but the Queens do manage to take that down. So if nothing else, XBD does take a little bit back, taking out that Warp Prism with the 3 Stalkers inside, but he lost his third base, which is such a big deal. If we look over at that units lost tab, fairly even, all things considered. Technically, the Protoss lost more in terms of resources, but we have to remember that the Zerg lost quite a bit of mining time in that right, and without that extra hatchery at that third base, not going to have the droning capabilities right now. It's sitting at 50 harvesters, because there's really no point in making more on 2 base. I think it is. I think the money number is like 24 per base, or something akin to that. It's close to that. Thankfully for XBZ, though, he did have this Macquarie hatchery made in his main base, so he will still have that larva capability with that extra Queen there to go ahead and pop out a few extra units. Might be going for a bit of a counterattack himself. Going to be checking this third base, but he's going to be kind of disappointed to find, oh, not actually going to be disappointed at all, but as a Nexus was just laid down there. Yombonski going to want to get some units over there. That's not going to be able to get saved, but he might, with a couple of force fields, be able to get a few of those roaches, which is always a nice little victory. But no, oh wait, might actually be looking to cut off XBZ from making a great escape. Does have a quite nice little force here. A lot of Stalkers in this force. Where are the force fields though? Oh, there we go. Now engaging. Yombonski trying to pull the sentries back. Oh, sentries. One sentry does go down. A second sentry almost goes down as well. Now XBZ knows that these roaches are lost. He's going to try to poke up straight and come back around. Actually might be able to get around. And I don't know, what do you call that, an anti-flank? An anti-flank when you're running away on the flanks? I'm not exactly sure. We do have a double expanding coming out of XBZ, now has reestablished his third base, taking his 4th base as well. Going for those tunneling claws, and I believe the Glial Reconstitution is already finished as well. I actually have no idea where that Roach Warren is. There it is. Yes, Glial Reconstitution is done, which is the Roach movement speed. So it looks like we're just going to be sticking to that heavy roach play for quite a while here. It does have the infestation pit almost finished too. That's about as standard as you can get for a Zerg versus Protoss matchup. Is just Roach Infester versus this large force of Stalkers with Blink and a few sentries. We are going to need to see some sort of extra unit on the field for Yombonski at some point in time here, though, as you cannot stick on these tier 1 units versus the Infestor. Oh, I do not agree with that blink forward, actually. Trying to blink up the ramp to catch some of those Roaches off guard. However, that puts your Stalkers in kind of a precarious position because Stalkers a little bit harder to remacro than Roaches. And actually, we saw, a couple of Roaches down, but a couple Stalkers went down. And really a 1-for-1 trade, Roach to Stalker, not that good of a trade for the Protoss players, as Stalkers quite a bit more expensive, as you can see down there. Pathogen Glands just about halfway done, which means that the Infestors should be coming onto the field fairly shortly here, and indeed, 4 Infestors are getting spawned as I speak. And Hive Tech started as well. Probably going to be dropping Inspire fairly shortly if he is not already, to go ahead and work his way up to that Broodlord technology. And this is something, this is once again kind of your ye old strategy. You see this all the time in Zerg vs Protoss, is the Roach Infester, adding the Broodlords on in the late game. We actually have been seeing a little bit of Ultralisk play come into the field lately, though, which is, I would say, interesting to say the very least. And right now we actually have oh my goodness, that is a lot of Roaches one-shotting a gateway. Where are the armies for Yombonski? Well, sort of trickling in, trying to spawn right on top of these Roaches. That's not going to work too well. Blinking on top of the Roaches, but there are just so many. This Nexus is going to fall. There is absolutely no way to save that. And the Roaches, yes, they are going to die. Actually, he could burrow them, considering that there are no observers right here. He could burrow them, get them out, but no, he's going to pick off a few extra Stalkers while he has the opportunity. And look at that, 20 more Roaches just about to finish up anyway. XBC barely even felt that. Yombonski, however, feeling the repercussions quite hard, already got this third base delayed one time and now has it killed. So XBZ doing a good job of punishing his opponent for killing his own third base, getting his little bit of revenge right there. But is he going to have enough to repel this counterattack? This is a really scary force coming out of Yombonski. A lot of Stalkers on the field and a lot of gateways to be able to remacro this army as it comes up. However, not the best engagement angles from Yombonski, just kind of letting these Roaches get straight up on top of the army, and once again blinking on top of the Roaches. That is something you generally do not want to do, especially with these infested Terrans on the field. Generally, you want to blink away from those and disengage, but no, Yombonski not really with the best decision making here, is just kind of trying to brute force his way into XBZ's army, and that's just not the way you really can play this matchup, especially without Colossus on the field, without Immortals, even trying to turn around and fight there with a couple of Stalkers in the red in front. Yombonski, other than killing off that third earlier on, actually did manage to get that third base once again. A little bit of Warp Prism harass, but for the most part, he's been losing a lot of these engagements, unfortunately. And I can't help but feel, if you look at the supply counts, he's a little bit behind now, just on kind of the back foot, trying to run away. Actually, getting his Stalkers caught out in the middle of the field, not even trying to blink those away. There goes the fungal. So even if he wanted to get away now, that would not be an option. Yombonski just getting crushed at every single little turn here. I don't even know what he could do at this point to get back in this game. He is down over 100 supply. Does have Colossus finally coming on the field. Extended Thermal Lance not even done yet. And we are at the 19-minute mark. We're trying to warp in a few extra Stalkers. I actually would almost say that Immortals might do a little better here, considering that there are no Broodlords on the field as of yet. And with this outrageous number of Roaches and a few Infestors in the back, I just feel like the Immortals might be able to do a little bit better in this case, get 3 or 4 just to add the DPS, maybe even a second Robotics. Maybe that would be what he would need to do, but even then, that's a long shot, trying to say that Yombonski could try to come back in this game. But, as everybody always says, as Day 9 always says, when behind, go Dark Shrine. The question is he going to have time to actually try to utilize that Dark Shrine, as we are having a multi-project here? The Zerglings probably not going to be able to get past that gateway and cannon wall. Roach is coming up the center, however, and going to be able to pick off that Colossus. Easy peasy. That's going to fall almost instantly to this number of Roaches, who are now coming in and kind of cornering those Stalkers back into this cannon area. I don't know really where these Stalkers are going to go. I don't know what Yombonski was planning to do here, but they are just getting crushed by fungal growths and Roaches alike. And even these infestors trying to burrow, there is a little bit of detection somewhere around here. I'm not exactly sure where it is. But there we go. Yombonski's third base once again going to fall. He's going to have absolutely no income left after this attack. And where is that going to leave him? Well, with pretty much nothing left. His natural beginning to get mined out. It won't be too much longer on that. His main base pretty much completely mined out as well. The Dark Shrine just about to finish up. But even with Dark Templar, I mean, we have the capability to get Overseers on the field. The layer obviously done a long time ago. We have the Evolution Chambers on the field as we are at 1-2 upgrades for our Zerg player. And actually, really good upgrades coming out of Yombonski. But upgrades will only take you so far when you're down 100 supply. And now we can actually see that coming into effect here as XBZ moving straight into natural expansion. Dark Templar is on the field now. No detection over here. Fungus Growth actually will reveal these Dark Templar, or at least this one single Dark Templar. But even then, I don't think that it's needed. Yombonski just so far behind at this point. XBZ almost maxed out still. And I mean, yeah, he's actually maxing out faster than he is losing units, which is always kind of an amusing thing to see, even attacking with the probes now. Anytime you see workers attacking, you know that you're in a really bad position in the game. XBZ just kind of running into the base. Looks like he's going to try to snipe the one last Nexus on the field at this point in time. Yombonski doesn't even have enough to make another Nexus. I don't know what else to say other than this game is just over this point. XBZ sniping all the tech, and it's sniping all the Nexuses, save one. Finally, the Spire is coming down to the field, but Broodlord's going to be completely unnecessary to finish this game off. XBZ even expanding to a 5th base on this top left side. And Yombonski just, I mean, I will give him kudos for fighting for his life here and trying to give, fight to the last unit, but at this point, he's got to know that he's just about done. Units continuing to stream across the map for XBZ to reinforce what is left of his original attacking army here. And what do you say at this point? The Harvesters tab tells it all. I mean, we're 82-17. Units lost, I always think it's really interesting to have a look at at the end of the game. It just kind of shows you how the engagements all went. And there's the Overseers to be able to detect those Dark Templar. But the reason the units lost tab, the resources tab, always an interesting one to look at, as you can really see where who was winning all the engagements really, and it shows it right there. Yombonski losing an additional 7,000 resources worth of units, just could not, his problem, I really feel throughout this entire game, was the fact that he was just trying to brute force his opponent. He was blinking into the roaches rather than, slowly blinking one and one away, or maybe 2 or 3 at a time away, to try to keep the stalkers alive as much as possible. Blinking up a ramp even to engage roaches straight into the Zerg's main base. He did have a couple of nice warp prism plays, but that will only get you so far when you're so far behind economically and army-wise. Did have a slight upgrade advantage, but in the end, I mean, when your 100 supply down, having an extra upgrade over your opponent not going to be able to do too much. Could have also used, I really feel, to get some higher tier tech out a little bit earlier. By the time he had Colossus on the field, he was already, I mean, the game was already over at that point at 18 minutes in the game. I really feel he could have utilized that robotics quite a bit earlier, maybe with some Immortals or faster Colossus, either way. Let's not take away from XBZ, though, who did play a very, very good game. After he lost that third, did double expand to take a 4th base just north of his natural expansion as well. Got his economy going, and just roached and roached and roached with a few infestors behind it, and pretty much just bombarded his opponent into submission. And as a Zerg player, that is a perfectly legitimate strategy. Unfortunately, Yombonski was not a Zerg, and that's what he was trying to do, and it just didn't quite work out. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me here on the Coffee Cast. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please hit that nice little subscribe button. It helps me out a lot when you guys come back. It helps me know that I'm doing things right. And if you have any concerns or would just like to say something about the game, please leave a comment below. That would be absolutely fantastic. Until next time, folks, this is Coffee Break, signing out.